Well, hey everybody, Jonathan Doyle with you once again. Welcome back to the Catholic Teacher Daily Message. Please make sure you have subscribed. Go and check out all the links in the show notes. Whether you're on the podcast version or the video versions, go and check out those show notes because I put a bunch of cool stuff in there that I'd love you to go and check out. Free stuff, go and do that. Yesterday's video, we talked about how Catholic teachers write on the very spirits, hearts and souls of young people. In this episode today, we're going to go a fraction deeper with it. I'm going to take you to a really beautiful quote from one of the church documents that just fleshes out this idea of how precious our students are, even though I know at many times they can make us question that. So let's jump into today's quote. The religious dimension makes a true understanding of the human person possible. A human being has a dignity and a greatness exceeding that of all other creatures. A work of God that has been elevated to the supernatural order as a child of God, and therefore having both a divine origin and an eternal destiny which transcend this physical universe. Okay, there is a lot here. Might be worth rewinding and going through the quote again because it's really deep. The things that are relevant for me is if you look at some of the great forces of the last few hundred years, particularly scientific Marxist materialism, which kind of aim to reduce the human person to simply a biological entity, an arrangement of carbon atoms, no transcendent nature. That vision of reality has definitely had profound impacts on human experience, right? If you go back and you look at the impact of Stalin and then Mao, you see what this Marxist scientific materialist dialectic dynamic creates in the temporal order, in reality, right? If we have a vision of people that they are not sacred, they are not special, unique, different, then a bunch of behaviors flow from that. I think there's a corollary here. There is also, I think in recent decades, there's been a drive to, and this I think comes through some of the extreme elements of the environmentalist movement, is a desire to basically position the human person as just another animal on the planet, another part of the biosphere. It's really clear from this quote and from scripture in general that the human person is orders of magnitude above anything else. Scripture says, you made us little less than the angels. So I think one of the good things to recover and to reclaim in our Catholic imagination is that we're definitely not perfect, but we're not the same as rocks and trees. We're not inputs into a system. We're something much, much more profound. And this quote today reminds us that we have both an eternal origin and an eternal destiny. Now, please don't put awful comments here wherever you're listening that Jonathan thinks the environment's not important. Of course it is, but we are stewards of that environment. God has placed us in stewardship over that environment, and we do better or worse jobs at that, and we can have that discussion anytime. And it's worth having. But what we need to begin to reclaim is this transcendent, profound, spiritual, orthodox view of the human person. How do we know that the human person is significant? Well, here's a couple of ideas. There's this little thing called the incarnation. If being human wasn't significant, then please explain why Christ took human form. Why did he live an embodied human life? Why did he die in a human body and then raise that same human body to the most profound level in the cosmic order, in the spiritual order? Because embodiment matters, incarnation matters. So theologians, you can go nuts in the comments if you need to, but what I'm getting at is that as you walk into your classroom, you are not standing in front of a collection of random-based carbon atoms. Well, you are in the sense of a purely scientific materialist worldview. But you know there's something much more than that going on, right? You do, and if you, that's why you're there, because you intuitively knew when you accepted this vocation that that was what God was trying to invite you into. Having that transcendent view can also make dealing with our most difficult colleagues and students more bearable. As we go into difficult conversations and situations, Father, please help me realize that this person is made in your image, that you wanted them to exist from all eternity. You've got a plan for them. Help me to love them as you love them, so that we deal with difficult people and circumstances knowing that they're made in the image of God. So, summary, let's reclaim that beautiful, big, expansive Imago Dei, image of God, transcendent incarnational reality to personhood. Let's push back against this Marxist, materialist, radically environmentalist, syncretist, pantheist view of reality, all right? Please make sure you subscribe. Go check out all the links in the show notes. There's a whole bunch of free stuff there. You can book me to speak. I hope it's useful. My name's Jonathan Doyle. I'll have another message for you tomorrow.